Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself, Anne Welsh. Today we're talking to Amberly Lago about her journey of living with pain and finding her joy. The topic today will be my pain, my biggest teacher. She's a motivational speaker, best-selling author, champion for those that have chronic pain and want to get on with their lives. Our conversation will focus on her own journey. At the age of 38, her life was turned upside down. She was hit by an SUV, recovered from 34 surgeries to save her life from being amputated. She was diagnosed with an incurable disease dubbed the suicide disease. As a result, she lost her businesses and she had zero self-confidence. Her life spiraled into depression because she was tired of everything from the chronic pain and nothing working. She felt stuck, she felt hopeless, and she felt like it was about time she gave up on everything. But through resilience, persistence, motivation, community, Amberly turned all these things around. Her life has inspired a revolutionary lesson which she offers to the world. She brings unique strategies developed to teach others how to tap into their superpower of resilience and perseverance through any challenge. She's a powerhouse of energy on stage with a book that will engage and captivate any audience. Her keynote speeches, best-selling author, workshop, and podcast offer hopes and solutions for living your life to the fullest. For those especially with chronic pain like hers, and those to find themselves struggling against any obstacles. If you're looking for something exceptional on the topic of motivational resilience, today's conversation is for you. Because Amberly will be telling us about her own journey, her personal struggle, and how she's been able to turn something that no one believed would actually happen. The doctor gave her 1% chance of that leg actually still being with her. She made it. Let's meet our wonderful guest as we share her story, Amberly Lago. Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself, Anne Welsh. As I said in my introduction, today's conversation is one that will truly, and I mean it, blow your mind away. If you've been through any kind of pain, and I mean any kind of pain, it could be the chronic illness pain or physical, mental, emotional kind of pain, this conversation is for you. Amberly will tell us about her journey of how she's overcome pain to where she is today. Not easy, not something that we could easily do. A lot of people would give up. I would. Would you? Listen to this conversation. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here with you. We've really been wanting to have this conversation for a while, and I'm just grateful that we finally are able to connect and I get to see you, and I could listen to you all day long. I love your accent. It's so proper and beautiful. And so thank you for having me. And my intention is to really share with your amazing audience just the tools to strengthen your resilience to get through painful challenges, whether it is physical or emotional.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter what pain you go through. I always say to people, it always leads to other things. It always leads to other challenges. It leads to loss of job. It leads to loss of loved ones. It leads to so many big gap in your life when you go through pain.
It does. And you know what? I'm so glad that you said that, because it doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone that you come in contact with. It affects your family. It's very traumatic for your family. It affects everything we do, the way that we love, the way that we lead, all our relationships. So I love that you say that, because it is a challenge in every way.
Absolutely. So, Amberly, I have to ask you before we even get started. You are a motivational speaker, best-selling author, champion for those who have chronic pain. and want to get on with their lives, to live better lives. This is something you really do it passionately, and you do it with emotion, and you make people not feel bad about listening to their own problems, listening to their own pain. You give them the basic tools to help them to get to that next level. But before we get started into all of that, the simple question is, who are you?
You know what? I used to think that who I was what I did as far as like my career. So much of my identity came from, the success of me being this nationally recognized coach, being sponsored by Nike, that I could lift all the heavy weights with the strongest guys at the gym, how much money that I made, that I was the main breadwinner of the family. And, I don't identify that with who I am now. Now, who I am is I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a someone who has chronic pain and who does my best to lift those up who also deal with chronic pain. I like to stand shoulder to shoulder with women, especially. I love women and empowering women that they can go after their dreams. No, not even if their circumstances have been narrowed by their possibilities have been narrowed by their circumstances, because for a long time I felt like, well, my life is over. I was told I was going to be permanently disabled. And after being diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, that I would be in a wheelchair forever. And nothing wrong with that. My little brother's been in a wheelchair his whole life, but that just wasn't the vision that I wanted. That wasn't the vision that I had for myself. And so now I am someone who sees that no matter what happens, that there is a way for us to really tap into our own resilience and find joy and love and happiness and thrive no matter what.
That's truly amazing. It's so funny because you said something so magical that your little brother is disabled, and because I look at my sisters and they look at me when I used to be so sick, and they think, oh, it's just Anne. She's the one who's sick, and I just imagine that I looked up to them because they were perfect in everywhere. And I can only imagine how that felt for you, that you were not that one who was born this way. And all of a sudden, one day, your life turns around. One
Mhm.
day. This is not something you imagine. This is not like something you were thinking, oh, I might have pain here. Let me go to the doctor to go find out. Your one happened so fast and so instantaneously. As a child, what was it like for you growing up with your brother? What was your relationship like?
Well, my little brother, in fact, I just talked to him yesterday. Well, he can't really talk.
Mm.
He's got a lot of spirit though, let me tell you. He he was, I swear he's so funny. So he can't talk, but he can moan and he can get his emotions out, and he pushed mute on the phone. And I told my mom, I was like, my brother just muted me because he was upset about something. So anyway, he is in a home now, that helps him because he's completely disabled. He can't feed himself. He can't go to the bathroom on his own. He can't walk. He can't talk, but
Yeah.
he's got a lot of spirit. Now, growing up, I come from a really, middle class family. If I could even call it middle class. I mean, there were times we really struggled financially,
Mm.
but loving parents. But they divorced when I was young, and my mom remarried a man that my little brother who's disabled is my half brother.
Yeah.
Um, and growing up with him, there's something, and I've never shared this before, but I remember, he had seizures when he was first born, and that's why he is disabled. And I really think it's because they used those forceps to pull him
Yes.
out, and it
Oh.
caused some brain injury. But I remember growing up, and my mom, I could see that it was hard for her in so many different ways. And that, people would look at him funny when he was little because they would see him and he was a year old and he should have been able to start crawling and walking and talking and doing things. And she would kind of make excuses for him. And then when he was older, it got to the point where he was so heavy, and it was so hard for her to lift him into the car to get him places. And my grandmother and I had to really convince her, Mom, I think it might be best for him and for you and for the family if you put him in a home where he could get really some assistance, the learning that he needs and everything. And so that was really hard for her. But now I will say that, she goes to see him every weekend, and that is her reprieve. That's her serenity when she gets to go spend time with him. But growing up, it was hard. I was never, thinking back, there was not one part of me ever that was ever embarrassed to be with him and him being in a wheelchair, disabled. And so I think for me, having this reality of, oh, I was the one that was successful in the family. I was the one that was achieving all her goals. I was the one that was doing the fitness videos and the infomercials and modeling and in Shape magazine, and my whole life been an athlete and set the record for running the fastest mile in Texas. To going from that to being in a wheelchair, I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of shame. I wouldn't let people take pictures of me in my wheelchair. And I wish I would have, because I only have a couple of pictures in my wheelchair, but I didn't want people to see the pain that I was having. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I didn't want people to know how bad I was hurting emotionally and physically. And I tried so hard to pretend like nothing was wrong. And I remember when my youngest daughter started preschool, and I remember thinking, okay, she's starting a new school. And by then I was on crutches, but I remember thinking, this is a new school. I don't want all the other moms to ask me any questions like what happened to you, or I don't want them to see my scars. And I remember trying to walk to her classroom without a limp because I didn't want people to see that there was something wrong with me. And I remember one day I got to her school, and my oldest daughter was with me, and she was only a teenager at the time. I think she was about 14 or 15. And I was in so much pain that I couldn't walk, and I was too embarrassed to use my crutches to get to the door. And so I told my daughter, please go get your sister. I'll wait in the car. And she got there, and I'll never forget this. The teacher said, Mom, she wouldn't release Ruby to me because I'm underage and there has to be a parent. And I was devastated and I was angry. And I thought, oh, that teacher, God, no, I'm going to have to walk on crutches. So I went, but it was good. At the time, I couldn't see the blessing in that, but it was really a blessing because it forced me to accept where I was. And I walked up on crutches, and there was something that shifted in me when I was like, you know what? I need to just own this. This is where I am right now. And I always say, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And so growing up, and I'm sorry, that was a really awfully long response.
No, it was an interesting story because you really got into how that impacted you growing up as well. So, and I love the way you twangled it and mix every little bit about it. But I have to ask you about the success when you were a young adult. What made you, that gave you that drive to be so successful? Because you were actually very successful before all this happened, even though you were still successful in a different way of method of life. Before that, you were so driven. What drove that?
You know what? That's such a good question. And when I think about that, I've always had a lot of grit. And I think I get that from my mom and my grandmother. There's a lot of strong women in my family, but I didn't realize that a lot of my success, not until I was stuck in a hospital bed and could not run away from my problems, a lot of my success really sparked from pain. And I was running away from pain. And what I did, what was my default? I was sexually abused starting at about age 8 or 9 when my mom remarried my stepfather. And I had so much emotional pain and so much shame. And what I did to overcome that was I did things to make me feel better, which was I became a straight A student. I became the fastest runner at track. I became the best dancer at the studio. I became the best student. I was voted class favorite. I became an overachiever. And I literally ran because running made me feel good, because it chemically it releases endorphins that make you feel good. But it started to build my confidence. And so when at a young age, when I realized that I could make money to do the things that I loved, I could have a career and get paid to dance, I thought, well, heck, I'm going to do that.
Why not?
I'm running away from this place that's not safe for me, where the sexual abuse and emotional abuse and horrible things were happening. And so I started working 4 jobs to save up enough money. And I eventually saved up $1,200, packed up my little Suzuki Samurai that I had bought on my own, and moved to California. And I was not only pursuing my passion as a dancer because I loved dance and it made me feel good, but I thought there's no turning back. This has to work out. There's no plan B, because I cannot go back to that pain and that place that's not safe. And so a month later, and I didn't have a lot of support of people going, oh, you're going to do it, you're going to be successful. And I didn't have parents that had money that would say, hey, we're going to set you up in a nice place to make sure you've got a good roof over your house and we're going to pay your bills. It was up to me. And so the first week that I was in California, I had 4 jobs. I had 2 waitressing jobs and 2 jobs teaching dance, where I had to audition to get this job. And so I was 18 years old, had 4 jobs. A month later, I landed my first video. I was in MC Hammer's music video, Can't Touch This. And I thought,
Oh.
I've made it. I'm with MC Hammer.
Yes, of course. Oh.
And so a lot of that, I have been a driven person. And you know what? I have to tell you, so when I just moved to Dallas and our internet wasn't working, and I was freaking out because all of my work is through the internet, my mastermind, my coaching sessions, my virtual keynote events, all through the internet. The way that I connect, my sobriety recovery meetings are all through the internet. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm freaking out. I can't connect. I can't do my job. And my husband was like, you don't have to work this hard. You don't have to do all of those things. And I said, but no, I do, because that gives my pain purpose. And if I didn't have something that I loved to do, then I would be focused on pain and I would spiral down into a depression. And so one thing that has really helped me through pain from the beginning, since I was a kid to now, is that I get to help other people tap into their resilience so they can thrive. I get to empower other women to use their voice and share their story because their message matters. And so absolutely, I love what I do. And I may not get to run the way that I used to, or exercise the way that I used to, or do all the things that I used to, but I don't focus on that. I focus on what I can do now. It might look a little bit different, but when we open our heart and our mind to new possibilities, the possibilities are endless to all the things that are available to us, especially because we can connect. Like you and I connecting. I mean, you're in
I
London,
can't
I'm in
believe it.
Dallas.
I
Yeah,
can't
it's
believe it,
amazing.
honestly. It's truly amazing. But Amberly, I have to get to this. Honestly, that day, you were just 38 years old. Your life went instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, you obviously had this successful career. Everything was going so perfectly well for you. Then all of a sudden, this tragic thing happened. You were in an SUV and something just magically happened. Could you describe to our audience what happened on that day, if you and whatever you remember. And if
Yeah. Well,
it's
first of all, I love
yeah.
that. First of all, I love that you say you were just 38. I wish I was just 38 because I'm about to be 50 now next month. And I can't believe it's been,
Lovely for that. Amazing. 50.
oh,
My goodness, I can't
thank
believe it.
you.
I know,
Thank
honestly,
you.
I will never get you a 50.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Yeah. I can't believe it's been almost 12 years ago. And I was actually on my motorcycle coming home from work. And when I had an SUV plow into me, so I was T-boned and I was thrown 30 feet and, I slid across Ventura Boulevard. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down and my leg was completely crushed. My femoral artery was severed. And I actually remember every detail of the event. And I have replayed it over and over in my head. And there was a time when I was afraid to close my eyes because I could actually see that SUV coming right at me over and over again. And so, I don't know, I think they might call that post-traumatic stress disorder, but I can close my eyes now. But I was rushed to the hospital, put in induced coma. And when I woke up from a coma a little over a week later, they told me, we're going to have to amputate your leg. You only have a 1% chance of saving it. We're sorry. There's nothing we can really do for you. We've got to amputate. When I was in a coma, they wanted to amputate, but my husband was like, no, you're not going to amputate her leg. I want her to wake up with both of her legs. I want that to be her decision. When I heard the 1%, I thought, well, great. There's still a chance.
Oh,
1%. Well, then that means there's a chance. So we just need to find the doctor that is willing to take that chance with me. I am ready to take that chance. We got to do this. That took a lot of prayer. That took a lot of pulling strings to get me transferred to a hospital and an amazing doctor. And 34 surgeries later, they saved my leg.
When you heard that 1%, because I know a lot of people hear 1%, and because we are human beings where we believe the first thing anyone tells us, and sometimes we don't argue that fact. What gave you that hope and faith that I want to do something about this 1%? I'm not just going to give up, because 1% is literally, it's not half, it's not 1/4, it's not 75%. It is the lowest of the bottom. It is not almost nothing. What gave you that hope and what gave you that intuition? 1% is still something.
Well, you know what? I think that's all we need is a glimmer of hope to carry us through. And the human spirit is powerful beyond measure. And I've been an underdog my whole life. And I get my motivation when somebody tells me, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, really? Watch me. I can. So when I heard 1%, I was like, well, you know what? I've struggled with people that didn't believe in me. I was not the best dancer when I got to LA, but you know what? I believe in grit, and I believe that our hard work puts us where our blessings can find us. And I believe that if we keep our mindset on the right things, I think that resilient people know it's so important what you focus on. And if I focused on the 99% chance of, well, you're not going to keep your leg, then I probably wouldn't have been able to keep it. I focused on what I could do every single day to get through the next surgery. And sometimes that was all I could focus on was, okay, what can I eat today to keep my blood sugar levels down so that if it stays down below 125, then I won't have to get insulin shots. Then my infection rate will really be so much better, because if your blood sugar levels go up, your infection rate goes up. So what can I do? What can I let go of that I can't control? And what can I focus on that I can control? Well, I can focus on my mindset. I can focus on gratitude, which shifts your perspective. And that's what really allowed me to focus on what I did have and what I could do. And it's something that I still focus on today, every single day when I wake up and it's hard for me to walk, or I'm in a lot of pain, or I feel like I can't keep going because I'm still not to a place where I'm pain free. I have decreased my pain, and some days I don't even notice the pain. Most of the time, it's when I'm on stage or I'm with people that I love, or I'm in a conversation with you right now and I'm getting to be in the moment, in the now. I'm not focused on pain. I'm focused on this amazing conversation that I get to be here with you and see your beautiful face. And so I think so much is what you put your focus on. And when you focus on the good keeps getting better.
Absolutely. I love that. The whole conversation is all about my pain, my biggest teacher. What lessons did you learn as you were going through that healing process, that method of, it was a struggle, it was difficult because you were in so much physical pain at the time. And you found it, really a challenge to get yourself from A to B initially because, you were in pain. Your pain, your biggest teacher, what did it teach you?
Oh, I learned that suck it up doesn't always work. Suck it up will get you far, and grit will get you far, but it's really about giving yourself the grace. It's really about not fighting it, not letting the pain define you or own you, but it's embracing your pain. Pain is a good indicator. It's a good way to go, okay, what do I need right now? What is my body trying to tell me? How can I embrace this and learn from it and show myself some grace and some self-love to get through it? Now, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, because I don't. And I learn something new every day from other people. And I think when we come together and we can share what works for each other, what might work for me, it might help you. Maybe it won't solve all your pain, but maybe it'll help you. But when we can come together and share what works, that's how we keep moving forward. And for me, I think the greatest lesson that I've learned is, I used to try to suck it up and stuff it down and numb it out. I would try to, when none of the pain medications or treatments worked, and I did everything. Oh my gosh, I was trying everything. I had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. At one point, I was on 73 homeopathic pills and 11 different prescription medications a day. I had a spinal stimulator, spinal infusions, spinal radio frequency. If anybody came up to me and said, "Oh, we've got this gadget that can get rid of your pain," I'm like, "Okay, I'll buy that $4,000 microcurrent machine that'll stick these sticky pad things on me and try to reduce my pain. Okay, let me try that drink. Let me try that supplement. I was desperate. I was going to healers, any snake oil salesman out there that would tell me I've got something that can cure your pain. I was desperate and I was willing to do anything. It wasn't until I surrendered to it all and I accepted where I was and I let all those feelings rise to the surface that I was able to go, okay, this is what I've been diagnosed with, because I did not want to be diagnosed with this disease. I thought, there's no way I can have CRPS. This is not my life. I can't have this. There's just no way. It wasn't until I accepted, okay, these are the cards that I've been dealt. It's up to me to play the heck out of these cards. What am I going to do next? And so when you accept where you are on your journey, it gives you the power of choice. You always have a choice in what you're going to do. And for me, when I was in acceptance, I could go, okay, I could take a good hard look at my life and what I was able to change, what I was able to do. I started changing the way I ate, changing the way the rest that I got. I mean, I made resting like a business strategy. I even wear this ring that I just got for Christmas from my husband, and it monitors how much sleep, how much deep sleep. Today it was like, alert, alert. Your readiness score is really low. And I don't know why, but I didn't get deep sleep last night. And that deep sleep is where we get our recovery and our brain restoration and our just our subconscious restoration. And I got like 3 minutes of that last night. So I was like, oh gosh, alert, alert. So I don't know. I'm trying to work on all the things to get good sleep, to get good nutrition, to get my supplements, to do all the things to bring my inflammation down. And I think that's all that we can really do is do the best that we can with what we have and share what we learn with each other so we can all thrive together.
Yes. Emily, I have to, one of the things you just said is, back in before this accident happened, you were, fashion, you were model, sports model, you did all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people were asking themselves, when this accident happened, and all of a sudden you finally got to see your leg, how did you shift that perspective of this leg is not what it used to be? This thing is not what I'm used to. Because this happens to so many different people. It could be, as someone even in a relationship, losing a husband or losing a wife because you're going through a divorce. You're not used to that. And all of a sudden you have to shift your perspective to start adapting to this new way of life. How did you change your life, your perspective to really embrace the new you?
Oh, well, let me tell you, it was hard. There were a lot of ugly cries. There was a
Yes.
lot of trying to hide the fact that I was crying because it upset my husband so much when he would see me cry, that I would do therapy when my leg was closed up and healed up enough to where I could go in the swimming pool. I would do therapy in our swimming pool and I would cry in the pool because I was like, okay, well, you can't see that I'm crying because of the water. It'll just look like water's on my face. I would try to hide it. But I hated my leg. I hated the way that it looked. I hated that it gave me pain. I hated that it was deformed and it didn't work properly. And I would look down at it in disgust. I remember one day sitting in my hospital bed and not sleeping because the pain was so bad and seeing this infomercial with this beautiful girl. And she was in a bikini and she was running on the beach and with her family. And I just thought, wow, I won't ever be able to wear a bikini again. What if they amputate my leg? What if my husband doesn't love me? What if I can't chase after my kids? What if? And I was just spiraling into despair. And gratitude really helped me with that. So I started writing down in my journal and I was like, okay, wait a minute. I've got a choice here. I can continue thinking about what if all these things go wrong and what if my husband doesn't love me and hate myself or I can focus on the gratitude and that truly is alchemy because it really does shift our perspective. But the thing that I think helped me the most, and it's been a process, and I can sit here with you today and say that I genuinely do love my leg again. I love the fact that it's healed. I look at it as a miracle. I look at it as, wow, I am able to walk. All these scars remind me of all that I have been able to get through. But what helped me initially with that was one day I had so much pain and I thought, I've got the solution here. I'm just going to have the doctor amputate my leg. That'll cure it. I'll get rid of my leg. That'll get rid of the pain. So I go into my doctor, Dr. Wiss, who'd saved my leg and done all these surgeries. And I said, I'm ready to amputate it. I appreciate that you've done all these surgeries, but I just can't live with all this pain. I can't live with this. So we need to go ahead and cut it off. And he looked at me and said, well, we can't do that. He goes, you have CRPS. And if we amputate it, it may cause the CRPS to spread. You have this disease now, and amputation may make it worse. And he did something that really changed my life. He put my leg in his lap and he looked at it like, wow, this is like a miracle. Look at this leg that I saved, the 1%, and it's here.
Yeah.
And the way that he looked at it, I thought, wow, if he can look at my leg that way, maybe I can learn to look at it that way too. And something just shifted me. I remember I just had tears running down my face, and I thought, maybe I can learn to accept it and love it every day too. And so every day it wasn't easy, but I started to love it a little bit more and appreciate it a little bit more and look at it with gratitude for all that it did do for me instead of what it wasn't doing for me. And for anyone listening who struggles with maybe their circumstances or the way that they look or their scars, or like I did, and hate parts of themselves, I promise you there is a way to slowly every day start to love that part of you. And whether it's going to therapy, whether it's writing, whether it's, journaling it out, whether it's practicing gratitude, whether it's talking it over with a friend, there are ways to start to love yourself a little bit more, but it really does help. I feel grateful that I had a doctor that could show me that that was possible, but I'm also grateful that I have a husband that was able to love me and love my leg until I was able to love myself and love my leg a little bit more. So it does help to have a community or someone who believes in you so you can start to believe in yourself too.
I love that because it's that was something I struggled with at the beginning of my like when I was really sick, and I realized I can't do the business trip, I can't do this, I can't do this, and I used to get frustrated, and my doctor would call me and say, and think about the opportunity that business trip did for you by you not going. Imagine you went there and the plane had to divert, or you got sick on the plane, there was no way to get you better. And I would think to my doctor, how dare you say that? I am missing out on big opportunities here, and you're telling me about I should be grateful for this thing. And I think then on one day I sat back and I had to think about what he was truly saying. And I realized that sometimes we look so far ahead because we're thinking about what others are saying or what we want to achieve, but we forget the real meaning of everything that's happening to us, the real
Mm-hmm.
beauty of everything that's happening to us. Like, yes, that might have happened, but that changed you as a person. That made you reach out to so many other people. People now are coming out to you because you were there as an instrument to help others who might be going through a lot more difficult circumstances. So people can't even stand up or sit down. They're permanently on a bed where they have to lay down and have to be fed through a tube.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to live and get on. And there's always something each day to be grateful. And when people ask me, and what are you truly grateful for each day? I always say I'm just grateful to breathe in the fresh air of life. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that gives me that gratitude. And you talk so passionate about this. You talk about turning your pain into gratefulness. Could you explain how you do this so well?
Oh, thank you. Well, I think it's one thing to think about what you're grateful for. I think it's another thing to really have some accountability for it. And I need accountability. I don't want to do anything alone. I like having a circle of um, soul sisters around me. I have a group of girls we call ourselves the God Squad, and we text each other every single day 10 things that we're grateful for. Um, and one of the things on my gratitude list this morning was that I was going to get to talk with you.
Mm,
And it really is. And, some days when you're struggling, it's hard to be grateful. But when you have some people that you're accountable to, that you can reach out and share what you're grateful for. Sometimes when I'm feeling down, or, oh, I wish I was doing more, or I wish I could, it's always more, 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 The other day, one of my friends that texted in the group, she was grateful that it was her last day of chemo. And it really shifted me to like, wow, Amberly, I don't have cancer. Like, she's going through cancer treatments right now. And so when you can think about what you're grateful for, it's one thing. When you can write it down, it's another thing. I think there's something magical when you put your pen to paper. And I'm big on writing. Like I have notebooks literally everywhere, notebooks, because I love writing and getting my feelings down. But when we text each other what we're grateful for, and you can share that gratitude and express it, it really does shift the way you feel about your situation. And so, you hear a lot of people talk about gratitude, but it really has changed my life. And it's something that I do on a daily basis. And at night, every night when we get in bed, I tuck my daughter in and we cuddle for a while. And I'm always like, Ruby, what's one thing you're grateful for? And what's the best thing that happened to you today? And I think it matters what we think about before we go to bed. So if you can start your day with gratitude and end your day with thinking about gratitude, it really does start to shift your whole mindset and the whole way you feel about your situation.
You're an author. I have to, talking about putting things to paper, you're an author, you've written a book, and your book is Tragedy into Triumph, True Grit and Grace. Tells the story of a woman's life, forever altered, but without rich reward. What are those rich rewards?
Oh, I never in a million years would have guessed that, I was going to write a book that would become a bestseller and then go on to write another book that would be a bestseller and do a TED Talk and get to be a global speaker and connect with amazing people and then have a podcast that is top 1%, because I didn't even own a computer 5 years ago. Like I literally bought this laptop right here 5 years ago. And sometimes I still feel like I can barely work it. But I mean, you just never know what all the possibilities lie ahead for you. And sometimes something that could seem like the worst thing that could ever happen, that is an authentic catastrophe, is anything but catastrophic, because through it, you can learn lessons, you can connect with people. There are blessings in every situation. I believe that it's up to us to find those gifts and those blessings and then share it with the world. And that is how I've been able to turn my pain to purpose, is I've been able to find these ways to tap into resilience through something I call PACER. It stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And through tapping into that every day, connecting with community, having that endurance, like knowing your why, and rest, all these things, that we are able to be resilient. And so I'm just grateful that this experience has, the best part I think about it, I mean, yes, it's great having a book, because that was really hard to do. It took me 2 years to write it, because I hand wrote about 80-90% of the book. I hand wrote it, and then I bought a computer, I bought a laptop. Through all these amazing experiences, I think the best part has been the connections I've made along the way. And so I would encourage anyone out there who's struggling to don't do what I did at first, which was try to hide it and try to stuff it down and try to suck up the pain. Share that, reach out to somebody, tell them you need help. I know that's the hardest thing for me to do, was to tell somebody that I was struggling and to reach out for help. But when you can share that and vulnerably with someone that you trust, or maybe somebody that you see on social media that has gone through pain and they're through it, or they're sharing how they got through it. When you can share that and know that you're not alone, that's what gives you hope to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. This question I'll ask you is something not a lot of people know about it. What is the pain of pain? Because it's one thing going through pain, but pain causes other kinds of pain. What would you say is the pain of being in pain, and how did you find your purpose when you were going through this pain of pains?
I would say the hardest thing that I've ever experienced was, a lot of people think, oh, 34 surgeries is a lot. And gosh, being in a wheelchair and being diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, but that's not the most painful experience I've ever been through. The most painful was because I was in so much pain and none of the medical treatments were working, no medications were working. I started drinking to try to numb out the pain. And the darkest moment I've ever faced was here. I had lived through this horrible accident. Doctors had saved my leg only to be literally killing myself by drinking every day to try to cope with the pain. And so that deep emotional pain and shame that came from going from this professional, nationally recognized coach to living out of a bottle to cope with pain was the pain that came from the pain.
Yes.
It was when I got really honest with myself and took that good hard look at my life and reached out for help. And by the grace of God, that I was able to get help and get sober. And there have been blessings in that. But the pain from that, we have to look at what, everything has a reaction in our family. One pain can cause another pain. But when we get to the root of the pain is when we can start to make change.
That is so good, beautiful. My final question, what brings you joy? How did you go through all this and what brings you joy today, Amberly?
Oh, that's such a great question. And you know what?
Yes.
Do you know my next book is going to be titled Find Joy for the Journey? So that you just asked me that. I'm like, okay, Amberly, get on that next book. It keeps coming up. I think it's so important to find joy and really celebrate that. And so, if anybody's listening, I think joy is connected to our purpose. And I have a lot of people that go, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, think back to the time when you were little, when you were 9, 10, 11 years old, and what were the things that brought you joy? For me, that was dancing. That was connecting with people. That was seeing that spark in people that, goes off when I can share something that they're like, oh, that's transformation, just that spark of joy that I can give someone else. So for me, joy is being with others and sharing the tools and tips of resilience. To me, joy is being with my daughters, my family, my husband, being in nature. I'm sitting here and I see the trees and the beautiful blue sky. And right after this, we're going to go to the barn. I'm taking some time off of work. My work brings me joy, but also time in nature at the barn with my daughter brings me joy. And I think it's so important to really think about what brings you joy. Write it down. Every year I do an inventory of what brings me joy, what moves the needle on my business, and what was a complete waste of time. Because there are some things that just aren't we shouldn't be doing. Yes. Scrolling on TikTok, lots of things, but and really do more of the things that bring you joy, because then success will follow, fun will follow, all the things will follow. So yeah, I love that question.
Oh, Emily, I'm really delighted to talk to you. Your story is truly an inspiration. For me, listening to you talk just made me realize that anything is possible. It doesn't matter what life throws at you, you could rebound from it. You just have to have that community spirit, that fighting spirit, and that belief in yourself that no matter how much disfiguration, uncomfortable pain, suffering you might go through, there always is light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep looking for your light. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much. Any final words from you before I let you go?
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for having me here to share with your amazing community. And if anybody wants that pacer playbook, it's something that really helps me that I do every single day. It's free, it's download. You can reach out to me. When I say reach out, I really mean it. Now, this is me texting you back. So just know it is like it's me texting. It might take me a couple of days because it's actually me. I like seeing the messages and I like connecting. So you can text me the word grit, GRIT, to 818-214-7378, and you'll get that downloadable workbook, because I don't want you to just hear a story and be inspired. I want you to take these tips and implement them into your life so that you can thrive and you can find your joy. And so, yeah, text me, or you can reach out and find more resources like a free downloadable gratitude journal at amberlylago.com. And I love connecting. So thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. It was truly a delight. I mean, you summarized the painless conversation, because I think it's all about turning your pain into joy, and you did it so effortlessly. Thank you so much, Amberly. Thank you.
Thank you.